Hello, I'm DK. It's pretty messed up, actually. But, yeah, dude and Sister Bessie just came back from Fuller with a brand new automobile. And the Lesters, I said Lempsters before. No, it's Lesters, not Lempsters. The Lesters were all kind of checking it out, and Bessie decided to sleep over the Lesters because her house is falling apart. Anyway, come into the chat if you want to. I'm on what chapter? I'm on chapter 15. Here's my scary bookmark. Eddie the Kid. Art by Derek Riggs. This is the Iron Maiden guy. One of these comes free in those 1990s hair metal rock trading cards. It's kind of weird. Anyway, I'm going to get right to it. Come into the chat. Tobacco Road. Chapter 15. Jeter drank his third cup of chicory and cleared his throat. Dude had already left the kitchen and gone to the yard, and Sister Bessie was on the back porch combing her hair. Jeter went down the back steps and leaned against the well. "It would be a pretty smart deal if I was to take a load of wood to Augusta today," he said. "Me and Dude's got a big pile of it, all cut and ready to haul. Now, if we was to take a pile in it..." No, I'm going to start over. Not from the beginning. Just the sentence that I can't seem to read. "Now, if we was to take a pile in it..." No. "Now, if we was to pile it in the new automobile, it wouldn't take no time at all to haul to the city, would it, Bessie?" She finished combing her hair, stuck half a dozen pins in the rhinestone comb into it, and walked with Jeter over to the automobile. "Maybe it would hold a load," she said. "There ain't so much room in the back seat, though." "Mine holds a fair load. It ain't no bigger than that one. They is the same kind of automobiles. The only difference being that yours is near about as brand new. The only difference being that yours is near about a brand new one now." I always thought the Jeter had a truck for hauling wood, but he had an automobile that he would haul to Augusta. The, what's it called? I can't remember. Anyway. Dude turned on the switch and raced the engine. The motor hummed perfectly. The tightness that had bothered Dude the day before had gone, and the engine was in good running order. He blew the horn several times, grinning at Jeter. "Aw, Dude. I'd sort of like to take a trip to Augusta, all right," Bessie said. "Me and Dude was going there yesterday before we changed our mind and went down to McCoy instead." "It won't take long to put a load of wood in the back seat," Jeter said. "We can leave pretty soon. Dude, you drive the automobile out across the field yonder to that pile of wood we've been cutting the past week. I'll get some pieces of baling wire to bind the load good and tight so it won't drop off." Bessie got in beside Dude, and they started out across the old cotton field towards a grove of blackjack. Blackjack, that's the wood that they harvest for bringing to Augusta for money. They get $1 for a load of blackjack. That's a song, actually. Blackjack. Big Brown Betty. No, is it Betty? Blackjack. Jetty. I haven't heard that song in a while. Maybe I'm going to post that one after this. That's what I'll do. That's just what I'll do. Blackjack. Big Brown Betty. The field had grown up into 4-foot broom sedge in the past few years. Once it had been the finest piece of tobacco land on the whole farm. The rows of the last crop of cotton were still there, and as the car gathered speed, the bumps tossed Dude and Bessie up and down so suddenly and so often that they could not keep their seats. Dude grasped the steering wheel tightly and held himself better than Bessie could. Bessie bobbed up and down as the car raced over the old cotton rows, and her head hit the top every time there was a bump. They had gone about a quarter of a mile and were almost at the edge of the grove where the pile of blackjack was, when suddenly there was a jarring crash that stopped the car dead in its tracks. Dude was thrown against the steering wheel, and Bessie shot forward off the seat and struck her head against the windshield. Where her forehead had hit the glass there was 100 or more cracks, branching out like a wet spider web in the sunshine. None of the glass shattered, though, and the windshield was still intact. She did not know what had happened. "Praise the Lord," Bessie shouted, pulling herself out of her cramped position on the floorboards. "What's we done this time, Dude?" "I reckon we rammed into a stump," he said. "I clear forgot about them old dead stumps out here in the sedge. I couldn't see nothing at all for the sedge. It covers everything on the ground." Both of them got out and went to the front. A 2-foot stump had stopped them. The blackened pine stump, hidden from view by the 4-foot wall of brown broom sedge, stood squarely in front of the axle. It was partly decayed, and except for the heart of it, the car would have knocked it down and gone ahead without any trouble. As it was, the axle was not badly bent. Actually, the car was going only about 15 miles an hour, and there had not been enough force to twist the axle out of shape. The wheels had sprung forward a few inches, but aside from that, there was nothing to worry about. The car was still almost as good as new. Jeter came running up just then with his hands and arms full of rusty baling wire, which he had found behind the corn crib. They did not have to tell him what had happened, because he could see just as well as they did. The front axle had hit the stump and sprung the wheels forward several inches. "It don't appear to be hurting much," he said. "Maybe it ain't hurt none at all." Bessie watched Dude start up the engine and back away from the stump. He swung around it and drove carefully the remaining few yards to the pile of blackjack. Big brown Betty. Flapjack. Blackjack. Big brown Betty. Jeter began picking up the pieces. I was singing Ween song. That's not in the book. Blackjack's the Ween song, remember I was talking about? That I'm going to post immediately after this reading. Jeter began picking up the pieces of scrub oak and hurling them like javelins into the back seat. "I reckon I'd better put the top down," Dude said. "It won't hold much unless the top's down." He began unfastening the set screws holding the top to the windshield, while Jeter and Bessie continued to hurl blackjack into the back seat. "There won't be no room for Ada to go along too, will there?" Jeter said. "She'll be powerful put out when she sees us drive off to Augusta and not stopping to take her along. The last time me and Dude went up there in my car, she and Ellie Mae like to had a fit. But it wasn't no use, because we needed all the room for wood." "Well, I ain't going to stay at home," Bessie said. "I'm going just as big as the next one. You can't make me stay here." "I'm going," Dude said. "Can't nobody make me stay here. I'm going to drive the car." He had thrown the top back and was trying to tie it down. Most of it had been folded up, but some of it hung down as far as the rear axle. He could not find any means of making it stay folded, so he allowed it to hang down behind. He could not find any means of making it stay folded, so he allowed it to hang down behind. "I sure ain't going to miss going," Jeter said. "It's my wood I'm taking to sell. I'm going to be the first one to go." The scrub oak had been cut into varying lengths the past week when Jeter and Dude had spent a day in the grove getting a load ready to sell. Some of it was a foot in length, but most of it was anywhere from 3 to 6 feet long. The length in which had been cut was the length of the stunted trees after they had been hacked off with an axe at the stump. As soon as the tree was hacked down, Jeter had taken the axe and broken the limbs off, and then the wood was ready to haul. The blackjack never grew much taller than a man's head. It was a stunted variety of oak that used its sap in toughening the fibers instead of growing new layers and expanding the oak, as the other trees did. The blackjack sticks were about 2 or 3 inches in diameter, and wiry and tough as heavy pieces of wire or small iron water pipes. It took them about half an hour to pile on as much wood as the back seat would hold. After that, Jeter began binding it to the body with baling wire so none of it would drop off along the road while they were riding to Augusta. And they appeared to be the only ones that did not need fastening. The rusty baling wire broke nearly every time Jeter attempted to fasten it to the door handles, and he would have to stop and splice the ends, twisting them until they would hold. The task of loading the blackjack and tying it to the car took nearly 2 hours, and even then several pieces of wood fell off when one of them touched the car or leaned against it. Excuse me. With the wood in place, Dude drove back across the fields towards the house, going no faster than a man's walk. But even then, the wood persisted in falling off. Jeter and Bessie came behind, picking up the sticks and carrying them to the house. Ada and Ellie Mae were in the yard when they got there. The grandmother waited behind a chinaberry tree to see what they were going to do. Ada stood squarely in front of the car, waiting to find out where she was going to sit. The grandmother went to the corner of the house and stood there. All except her face was hidden from view. "Where is I going to sit and ride?" Ada said. "I don't see no sitting place for nobody much, with all that wood you got loaded." Jeter waited several minutes, hoping that Bessie would undertake to answer. Hold on. Let's read that again. Jeter waited several minutes, hoping that Bessie would undertake to answer Ada. When she did not, Jeter got in and sat down beside Dude. "There ain't no room for you," he said. "Why ain't there no room for me, if there's room for you and Dude and that hussy there?" "Sister Bessie ain't no hussy," Jeter said. "She ain't nothing like that. She's a woman preacher." "Being a woman preacher don't keep her from being a hussy. That could help to make her a bigger one. Something acts that way because she is a big old hussy." "What makes you say that about Bessie?" he said. "Last night she was walking all around the room with none of her clothes on, and if I hadn't made you put on your overalls when I did, there ain't no telling what she might have done. She's a hussy." "Now, Ada," he said, "you ought not to talk like that about Bessie. She's a woman preacher, and she's married to Dude, too." "That don't make no difference. She's a hussy all the same. She always fools around with the men folks. She don't never stay in the house and help clean it like I has to do. She's taken after the men folks because she's a hussy. When she goes preaching, she always does the preaching to the men folks and don't pay attention to the women folks at all." "I ain't got nothing to say against Sister Bessie. She's a woman preacher, and what she does is the Lord's doings. He instructs her what to do." Ow, ow, ow. Hold on, I need to take a break here. When I was 16, I ran away to Boston. It was I think it was February. I've told these stories before, but It was weird to become homeless in Boston in February. It's very cold, and there was a lot of snow that year. But I remember I was in, where was I? I was somewhere in downtown Boston when a woman approached me and asked if I wanted to stay at a shelter for teens. And I said yes. And I went there, and it was very, very weird. I wasn't comfortable there. Everybody was assigned tasks, and I didn't have to do anything that night. But they told me that I had to cook. They told me that I had to cook the next night. But they wanted me to talk about my situation and stuff, and I didn't want to. I remember it was a big storm that night. Snowstorm. And excuse me. I left in the middle of the night, and I found I got on the orange line and rode to the end, north. I took the orange line north and rode to Oak Grove. And that night I slept in a salt box. Pretty wild. But it was a very cold night, and there was a lot of snow. I just remember trudging through 2 feet of snow after leaving there. I was like, what did I do? Why did I leave? But I wonder if I can pause this. I'm not going to pause it, but I got to step out for a second. I'll be right back. It won't take but 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, however long that takes. But it's 17:32 right now on the counter, so I'll come back and let you know. All right. What are we at? 1840. So that took like a minute and a half. That's not too bad. Anyway, I was just talking about being homeless at 16 in Boston that winter, spring, and summer. But anyway, fast forward 2 years to 18 years old, and Kim and I had an apartment in Methuen. No, not Methuen. That's a whole nother part of Massachusetts. We were in Medford, and I was working in Somerville at Davis at a place called Store 24, which was just a chain of convenience stores. And a lot of them, most of them were 24 hours, but the one I was working at was not. I had, it was weird. I didn't have a set shift. I would either work nights or I would either work days. The day shift started at 5 a.m. and we had, I'm just reminded of this because there's an Ada in my life. When I worked in Davis Square in Somerville, there was a homeless blind woman, elderly woman named Ada. ADA, Ada. And she would come in and she would buy coffee from me. I would never let her pay. But she always insisted, but I don't remember. I wish I did. I don't think I took her money. But she never washed her cup, so I would always wash her cup for her because it was really gross in there. You can imagine. There was like a little deli area. No, I just got a notification from Angela. I can't remember her last name, but she's a stand-up comic in Tennessee. We've been sharing comedy, and I'm not gonna. I'll do some comedy in another post, in another live stream. Hopefully when I'm doing my stand-up routine, because I'm gonna do a stand-up routine at one of these places in town. Wednesdays they have them. I've never done it before, and I think it's time. But anyway, I'm gonna get back to chapter 15 of the Tobacco Road, because that's what I'm here for. Sorry for the delay there. That was a few minute delay. Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. I'll read this part over. I ain't got nothing to say against Sister Bessie. She's a woman preacher, and what she does is the Lord's doings. He instructs her what to do. Ada is peeved because I married Dude, and I came here to stay, Bessie said to Jeter. She don't like it because I'm going to stay in the room. You shut your mouth now, Ada, Jeter said, and let us be going. I got to sell this load of wood to Augusta today. Dude started the car, and Bessie got in and sat on the edge of the seat beside Jeter. For all three of them. Ada ran towards them, trying to jump on the running board, but Dude speeded up the car, and she could not get on. When he suddenly cut the wheel and turned out of the yard into the Tobacco Road, the rear wheel barely missed running over Ada's feet. She shouted after them, but the car was going so fast by that time that it was useless to run after them and try to stop them. She went back into the yard and, with Ellie Mae, stood looking at the cloud of dust that hid the car from view. The grandmother came from behind the corner of the house and, picking up the old croaker sack, started to the thicket for dead twigs. She was already hungry again, although she had had a cup of chicory only 2 or 3 hours before. Dude slowed down when they approached the crossroad where they were a load of blackjack to the offside, and the entire top of the pile fell in the road. Jeter and Dude worked half an hour getting the wood in place again, and with Bessie helping the little that she could, it was then ready to be tied down again. Jeter went across the field. That will hold it. Darn that blackjack, he said. There ain't nothing else in the world like plow lines and baling wire. The two together is the best in the world to do anything with. Give me a little of both and I can do any kind of job. They were off again, speeding down the highway towards Augusta. The city was now only 12 miles away. Dude was a good driver, all right. He swung out of the tracks just as the... Sorry, I got a little bit of attention deficit disorder. And my mind wandered for a second. But when I do these live streams like this and read, it's not as bad as when I'm reading alone at home. I'll do all kinds of other things instead of read. I'll get through 2 pages and I won't know what I read. Dude was a good driver, all right. He swung out of the tracks just at the right moment every time he met another automobile. Only 2 or 3 times did he almost run head-on into other cars. He was so busy blowing the horn that he forgot to drive on the right-hand side of the road until the last minute. Most of the cars they met gave them plenty of road when they heard the horn blowing. Jeter could not talk because he was holding his breath most of the time. The swiftness of the car frightened him so badly he could not answer Bessie's questions. She looked grimly ahead most of the time, proud of her automobile and hoping that the Negroes and farmers they passed in the fields beside the road would know it belonged to her instead of thinking it was Jeter's or Dude's. What a weirdo. Oh. It was between noon and 1 o'clock when they reached the halfway point. Augusta was only a little over 7 miles away, and when they got to the top of the last hill, they would be able to see the city down in the valley beside the big muddy river. The last hill they had to climb before reaching that point was a long one. It was 1.5 miles from the creek at the bottom of the filling station on top. And they were about halfway up, when suddenly the car slowed down a few miles an hour. The water was boiling in the engine and radiator, and steam shot higher than the top of the windshield. The engine was making great noise, too. It sounded as if it were knocking... Hold on. is not good. It's just like a little reminder that the car has been idling. Where was I? The engine was making a great noise, too. It sounded as if it were knocking in the same way that Jeter's old car had, only a little harder and a little louder. "What's the matter with us?" Bessie said, leaning over the door and looking on the outside. "It must have got hot climbing that hill," Dude said. "I don't know what else is wrong with it." They went 100 yards and the car stopped. The engine choked down, and the steam whistled out of the pipes. Dude could put on the brakes. The car stopped rolling backwards. What's the matter with it, Dude?" Bessie said again. "Is something gone wrong?" "I reckon it just got hot," he said. He made no effort to get out. He sat under the steering wheel, grasping it tightly and jerking it from side to side as far as it would go. Presently he began blowing the horn again. "Dude." "That won't help it none, Dude," Jeter said. "You'll wear out." Several automobiles passed them at high speed, going up the hill and coming down, but none of them slowed or stopped to offer help. Another car was coming slowly up the hill behind them. It was coming very slowly in low gear, and it was steaming like Bessie's new car. Angrily, "What's your name, nigger? Where are you from?" "We come from Burke County," he said. His car was 100 yards up the hill and gaining speed. Jeter had been going to have stopped because Dude soon had the car going fast. The engine had cooled and they were going faster than Negro's car. They gained on the car ahead and were getting ready to pass it when suddenly the engine began knocking louder than ever and they came to a stop. "This is the darndest automobile I ever saw," Jeter said. It rolled down when Jeter saw the filling station, and he told Dude to wait a minute. "I'll bring some water and put it in," he said. It's carrying a bucket of water. The man who ran the station came out with him. While Jeter was unscrewing the radiator cap, the other man was raising the hood to measure the oil. "The trouble with you people, brother," he said, "is you ain't got a drop of oil in your car. Your bearings is burned out." "Now," Bessie said, "your new car is ruined, sister. It'll take 1.5 gallons of oil to put it in. No. It'll take 1.5 gallons of oil to put enough in it to run on. Do you want me to fill it up for you?" "How much does it cost?" Bessie said. $1.50. I didn't aim to pay out money on oil in it. It looks to me like you didn't have enough in it to start with." "I ain't got but $2, she said. "I was going to buy gasoline with most of that." "Me and Dude ain't got none," Jeter said. "But when I sell this load of wood, I'll have $1.50 maybe. You pour the..." They waited while he put the oil in, and then Bessie gave him the money. She had the bills tied in a handkerchief, and it took her nearly several minutes to untie the hard knots. Smudge in this sentence. Dude started the engine, and they moved slowly off the hilltop and rolled down the long grade to Augusta. The car was running like new again by the time they reached the bottom of the hill, but the engine made more noise than the one in Jeter's car. The bearings and connecting rods were so loose they made a jingling sound when the car was going more than 15 miles an hour downhill. That would be the end of chapter 15. I'm going to stop and come back and read chapter 16.